The Gen Z blue-collar situation is incredible. Actually, some amazing news this month because Gen Z is actually locking in. There is hope for the future after all. This is a good topic to think about over the summer for people who are still students, and this is something I've been telling people about trades, that they were super underrated and that college is super oversaturated for years now.
U.S. college freshman enrollment is on the decline.
Many schools have seen those enrollment declines already.
So it may not be surprising that many in Gen Z, the youngest generation in the workforce, are saying no to the college experience. Instead, they're entering blue-collar jobs and skilled trades that don't require a 4-year degree.
Really want to emphasize, I'm not making fun of university or people who actually still want to pursue those degrees. I'm just criticizing society as a whole at how they didn't realize that an overabundance of degrees would be the result when a whole generation of parents tells a whole generation of kids that they need to go to college, which is now resulting in the degree surplus and trade shortage.
Over the past decade, the average annual cost for a 4-year private college has risen by about 42%. And jobs that traditionally require college degrees are no longer as reliable as they once were.
And this time, even STEM majors can't be smug since even they are struggling to find jobs in the post-COVID market, with some technology majors even having to apply to hundreds of jobs before even landing a single interview. And by the time they do actually get a job, they've gone through like 1,000 applications. And I wish this was a joke, but there are several videos on this topic. It is the actual meta that most post-college graduates have to go through. Straight up, I take for granted how much of an advantage it was to just be born a few years earlier than the rest of Gen Z. I recently got this video recommended to me where it talks about the two types of Gen Z, about us born in the late 90s and how we got a glimpse of a normally functioning world, only to have it be ripped away from us, and now we're watching our younger brethren go through the post-grad trenches. The reality is, not every corporation, like I said earlier, is going to weigh every single candidate the same. Your degree, how you got the degree, and even when you got the degree, like I said, during online schooling, during quarantine, they factor this in. Combined with the boom of AI technology and the current economy we're in, the post-college graduate experience isn't anywhere near the same as it was in 2019 prior, much less during 2015 during like the original tech industry boom. It is absolutely like people are fighting in the trenches right now. It is awful, but you probably still hear your parents gaslight you with the "you're gonna go nowhere without a degree, you'll be on the streets." Like, tell me you haven't heard your parents give you this insane cope about university. It is so infantilizing that people just are trained to think that college or homeless, no in between. Like, you have all of these other options. You have trade school, community college, and entrepreneurship, military service, or even just government work. Like, deadass, working at the DMV or being a USPS delivery driver not only nets you pension for the rest of your life, which I know if you're from Europe, you're probably like, wait a second, isn't pension normal? Not in America, it isn't. Oh, and speaking of things we Americans don't have that Europeans do, healthcare. Yeah, I got sent another medical bill. This is pretty normal where I'll have a surgery, then literally 1 or even 2 years later, I just get a surprise bill because welcome to the US medical system. But basically what I'm trying to say is, yeah, I gotta pay these bills, so please understand that I have to say that this video is sponsored by... Big thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this video and keeping our online identity safe with the best VPN on the internet. If you don't know what a VPN is, it stands for Virtual Private Network, and it encrypts all the data sent between your computer and the internet so no one can steal your personal information. I like to drive and ride all across the country, but this means I use public Wi-Fi a lot in places like hotels, conventions, and boba shops, but unfortunately public Wi-Fi can be a goldmine for hackers, so the best way to protect yourself is with a VPN. Another cool feature is a VPN can also be used for things other than security like online streaming, and with the click of a button you can change your virtual location and get access to content from other regions. If you don't already have a VPN, I highly recommend Surfshark VPN since you just need one account for unlimited devices. You can visit surfshark.com/bladed or use code BLADED to sign up today and get 4 extra months free. Surfshark has a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk to trying it out. So get started by clicking the link in the description or the pinned comment below. Thanks again to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video. Anyways, back to the topic. There are more options than just college and university. There are even people making more money being a package delivery driver, like 150 grand sometimes, than literal college graduates, and those people don't have student loan debt unlike those college grads.
UPS delivery drivers are now making $170,000 a year thanks to their union. The contract negotiations help to boost the average full-time driver's compensation from $145,000 to $170,000 by the end of a 5-year period, including healthcare and other benefits, according to UPS's CEO.
If you do still want to go down the university route, please convince your parents to let you go to community college. Do it yourself. You're a full-grown adult when you hit 18, okay? You will save big bucks for your first 2 semesters, since let's be real, your whole freshman year in college is all foundation courses. Like, why pay 30 grand a year for something that you can do at community college for a fraction of the cost? It's like 2 to 4 grand. Actual big brain strategy, especially if you're someone who didn't really have a stellar high school. If you got a lot of B's and especially C's and your GPA isn't 3.0 over, you might not get accepted into the university you were applying for anyway. So community college is like a hard reset that lets you essentially reset your GPA. And trust me, colleges won't even look at your high school GPA anymore if you do like even 1 semester of community college. Generally, big advice to kids watching and to parents watching, because it's not worth the prices these days, especially for the first year. You can wait a year to brag to your peers about it, all right? I'm just here to remind people of the super obvious alternatives that have somehow been ignored by all of young millennials and older Gen Z, probably because of the misguidance of their parents, like I said. But now young Gen Z are thankfully locking in and going to trade school, because if you aren't built for community college even, that's fine. You can learn a trade and make more money than most people with degrees are making these days, since, you know, the whole trade shortage situation. Also, again, you got to factor this in, way less debt, if any debt at all. By the time a college student is 22, a trade school graduate already has 2 years of work experience and 2 years of salary, while also not having any debt. Since underemployment is a huge issue for college grads right now, there are some websites that have estimated that even by the mid-40s, these trade school graduates will still be ahead financially compared to modern day college graduates, because that's just genuinely how bad student loans have gotten, and that's how long they follow people. Even for millennials, student loans were already following them up to 10 years after they graduated. They were 32, still paying their loans, 22. Some of them are now in their 40s, and they're still being haunted by their student loans. That is scary to think about. Like, AI technology is the best example of the whole, what if I learned in university already becomes useless by the time I graduated? Like, that's not even a meme. That's something that they can actually struggle with, and that's scary, right? So it's no wonder that younger Gen Z's like, all right, nope, we're seeing what middle of the road Gen Z's struggling with, and old Gen Z are struggling with that. Yeah, I think we're gonna go the trade school route. They're doing physical work too, which lines of code won't be replacing anytime soon, so they have way better job security for the next decade, maybe the 2 decades. I can't predict further than 20 years in the future, but do not give me the robot cope. I already discussed this in another video I made that you can watch after this video, but basically robots will not solve the blue collar trade shortage like all these greedy CEOs think it will. Actual trade workers will solve the trade shortage, because at the end of the day, the first generation of robots must still be trained by blue collar workers. It's a symbiotic relationship, not an instant direct replacement. What I'm trying to say is, like, we're talking good job security, and that's something people need to hear, especially if you're coming out and trying to plan the next 10 years of your life to, again, set you up for success for the rest of your life.
Emotional damage.
Yet in spite of all of this advice, I always still see parents giving tons of pushback to their kids and just letting them basically metaphorically walk off the cliff and force them into college, just so they can flex to their peers about which university their kid is attending to at their next stupid coffee social. I don't know what boomers do, okay? Look, this is an actual life decision, by the way, for your living, breathing child, and they're about to potentially ruin the next 10, 20 years because you care about treating them like a status symbol. And this cannot be an exciting reality to thrust yourselves towards, right? Yet statistically, that is the outcome that is more probable if you keep choosing this overwalked, overbeaten, and overrated path that is just do college, it equals guaranteed success, cope that people have been fed for like 2 decades now. And again, don't get me wrong, 10, 20 years ago, this did work pretty dang well, but it's not a guarantee anymore, especially for people who don't want to do it. And remember, community college is always something you can experiment first before you go to actual university, save yourself money. Like, some Some tech majors used to have a 96% post-graduation employment rate. According to Forbes, there are now 41.2% of post-college graduates who are underemployed relative to the degree they've earned. They're getting a job that didn't actually even need a degree, so therefore they're taking lower pay. Hence, they're underemployed. It's the opposite of being underqualified. They're overqualified but taking lower pay. We'll just get to the statistic. So of the 70% chance to even get a job after graduating, 41.2% of that chance is getting a job that didn't even need a degree anyways, basically something you could have just done straight out of high school or even as a 16-year-old, right? And remember, this is almost a coin flip of whether or not college was even worth your time when you consider that you just went 100 grand plus into student loan debt. If you think losing a 50-50 in Wuthering Waves is bad, imagine losing the 50-50 on finding a job because of your degree is no longer useful in life right now. This isn't dystopian science fiction. This is real statistics. Please listen, parents. Stop telling your kids to walk off the metaphorical cliff. Stop telling them to walk the plank, especially if they don't want to. Even scarier when you consider the unemployment rate has risen drastically for college graduates, not for people who are lazy or bums or people who are unemployed off the rip or dropped out of high school. We're not even talking about college dropouts or high school dropouts. No dropouts involved. Graduates, people who have degrees, are 5.8% unemployed. So of the 41% that are underemployed, we got another almost 6% that are just not working at all, which is awful when you're drowning in that much debt. And that is a huge rise from the 4.6%, which is already a ridiculous number from just 1 year before. By the way, 10 years ago, it was only about 2.5%. So it's more than doubled, which is crazy. So to the older folk watching, times have changed. I'm not trying to talk down to you, not trying to insult you, but I need you to grasp a lot of 20-somethings right now are dealing with an entirely different world than you grew up with. They're going through an 1,000 application grinding machine just to barely get any interview potential. And I know, again, this is going to be harder for Gen X and Boomers to relate with since they can easily land another job because they have decades of experience. But you have to remember that these people who are fresh out of university, they obviously need a job to get the experience, but now every job needs experience to get the job. You have to have sympathy for those literally coming out of the gate since they are the future of this economy and your social security, so hopefully that perks some ears up. So if you want to retire, you got to make sure these kids get employed. The reality is the world changes. To really put this into perspective for people who are still in denial of college is still, it worked 20 years ago, it works perfectly just now. Look at what cell phones have done in the past 25 years. Look at how much they changed. No, seriously. I know the job market in university isn't a physical, tangible object, which is why I'm using cell phones. That's something you can hold, look at, and go back through the history. Look at how much they changed. I hope that comparison made you realize how rapidly the world has changed in just 25 years, especially technologically. Humankind, in my opinion, has not gone through such a technological surge in such a short period of time to such mass market availability than in this moment in life. This is going to be a more personal part of the video. I know it may sound like I'm fear-mongering against college, but I'm just presenting factual statistics. In fact, I'd argue I'm doing the exact opposite. I think society has fear-mongered people into thinking college was necessary in the first place, especially the past 5-10 years when it really has started to slow down, especially in the past 5 years where it's no longer showing effectiveness. I'm not fear-mongering people to not go to college. I'm just telling them to think like an adult and understand what life they are signing themselves up for. This is a life-changing decision at a pivotal moment at a pivotal age in everyone's life. Society and more parents need to acknowledge that not everyone's brain is built the same way and thinks the same way. College was never meant for everyone. That's not me calling people stupid, by the way. That's me calling society stupid for daring to think that a dumb piece of paper is a mark of intelligence and anyone who doesn't have one is really stupid, despite the fact that some of the greatest minds and richest billionaires alive currently were either C students or straight up dropped out. Long before mankind wrote with pencil and paper or even typed with keyboards, we used tools with our hands. This knowledge of tools and learning with our hands and being a hands-on person, that's embedded in our DNA. It's deep within our brain. There are a lot of people to this day who are absolutely more of a hands-on learner, and no matter how much you force them to sit in a classroom, they will struggle to engage and reach the same level of success as others. Instead, we shove medications down their throat. We say that something's wrong with them. We call them stupid people. We threaten and gaslight them that they're going to be a failure at life. They're going to be a homeless beggar if they don't go to college and if they keep getting Fs. People need to hear this. Point is, if you're doing good in school, you like school, keep doing school. If you aren't, it's not the end of the world. Push back against people who are trying to force you into doing something that you're clearly not good at. You know yourself, all right? I don't know you personally, but you know yourself. If you can't sit in a classroom and you know that, and your parents are still trying to force you to go to college, especially when you already don't have good grades, you're not stupid, all right? You're probably smarter in a different way that society has never enabled you to ever find out because they just gaslight you into thinking in B's and A's and GPA, all right? Talk to your parents, share them this video, share someone else's video. I got a lot of them I'll link in the description regarding this topic. It's not my place to tell parents how to raise their kids, but it also isn't their place to treat their kids like a status symbol instead of a real, living, breathing human. Your kid's future matters way more than the 4 years of bragging about the stupid artificial status symbol that comes with university life, quote unquote. Anyways, that's it for this video. Like this video if this advice will help you over the summer, and share it with your friends, parents, or pet dog. I don't know, whoever you think will listen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bladed Angel out.